Moshi Moshi.
Hello.
I'm Zeb Ramsbotham.
And I'm Annie Ramsbotham.
And we're the Rambling Ramsbothams.
Our journey might be rambling, but we hope this podcast isn't.
And thankfully, we're back in the same room.
I'm looking right at him.
I know, what a relief. Doesn't it feel good?
Yeah, it does. It was really hard to do this podcast on the, video app. It wasn't bad just doing it outside of this regular room, but that we didn't have the nice microphones.
Yeah.
But there was a lag on the video chat. I don't know how people do that usually.
I think there was a tiny bit of lag, and then we were also both, our internet here in Japan isn't especially good, and then the internet back home in rural Western North Carolina is also not very good. So I think we were just in a situation where, there was video issues, and then just figuring out the technology. Not the technology's hard, but we just don't do it a lot.
We're just old.
Yeah, getting old.
Oh, speaking of technology, if you watch us on YouTube, hello again. We're finally gonna post this video. I put on our YouTube banner, videos every week.
We're back.
No, I didn't say that we're back. I didn't say anything, so we haven't had a video on there for a month.
Yeah, it's been a while
until now.
But yeah, it's really nice to be back in the same room, because I guess we were in the same room for the first 2 episodes while we were in America, but then the next 2 episodes, were the virtual episodes. But yeah, so it's been 4 weeks since we've been in our, I wouldn't call this a studio.
It's our studio.
But
it's our bike room / office.
Yeah, since we've been in our gamer room.
Yeah, so this week we get to read a listener email, and then we're going to compare weddings in the U.S. and in Japan, because I got to be in 2 weddings while in America, and it made me curious, what weddings are like if you're a guest or if you're a bride or groom in Japan. Mm-hmm. And then just a quick mention about what I brought back from America and why.
Okay. Well, do you want me... who's reading the email?
You go for it.
Okay. So this email is from a faithful listener and now fellow Jet ALT. He's actually from North Carolina, and he's emailed before, so thank you very much. From Elijah. He says, Sashiburi desu. It's been a while since I've last written, but I finally feel as if I have my feet under me in Kobe. And he said he was catching up with some episodes recently and enjoyed hearing about Annie's trip to the River Arts District in Asheville. And he said it almost feels nostalgic about Asheville, hearing about Asheville, even though I only moved here a few months ago. And then he said, on that note, for the Japanese Culture Club, let's see.
That was the Culture Club.
He saw he saw a bonsai class being advertised, so he saw that. And then he says he's currently planning on taking a trip to Matsumoto in a few weeks, and he checked out Nawate Guest House, which is the guest house we stayed in. And unfortunately, it was fully booked. And if we have any other recommendations from our trip research, to let him know. And we actually do.
Oh, I do. Good. Because I was I don't think I have any.
So there's a soba noodle shop that we actually didn't get to eat at, but it became highly recommended from a coworker, and it's called Kobayashi. And I'll email you a link.
Which is also the name of one of your coworkers. I wonder if that's
I think it's just a family name.
A popular name.
Yeah, it's a pretty common Japanese family name. But Matsumoto is known for their high-quality water, and there are tons of wells all over the city. So if you take a water bottle with you, you can sample the many wells spread all over.
You don't even have to
Matsumoto.
take a water bottle, because when we walked around, they were ladles, which I don't know, maybe this is gross, but I just drank straight out of the ladle that was hanging up by the well.
Yeah, we did that at one, and I felt a little hesitant to do it.
Yeah,
it was
probably. It was until after I did it, I was like, oh yeah, this is post-COVID society. I shouldn't just be putting my mouth on things.
Yeah. But so yeah, Kobayashi noodles, and then of course Matsumoto Castle, super cool, because one of the original 14, I think, is that what it is? Yeah, it's one of the original castles. But don't you think he was asking for recommendations for places to stay? Oh, since the guest house is fully booked. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'll look. I don't know if I have a recommendation for you to stay in.
We'll email you. I thought what you were about to say
I might have something saved on my Google Maps. You can stay in the castle. And then he said, on a funny side note, have you ever had a Japanese neighbor come to your door and ask if you have kids? He said, in the first month after I moved in, a Japanese woman, maybe in her 50s, came to my door, greeted me, and said, Kodomo ga imasu ka? Do you have kids? I told her I didn't, and then she left, and I haven't heard anything since. So
when
Annie
I read
thought this was like very cute and thought that maybe it was just an old lady that wanted to hang out with foreign kids.
No, I just thought
creepy.
maybe it was like a neighbor trying to be friendly, like, oh, hi, do you have any kids? And then...
You got any kids in there?
Not in a creepy way, just like, hi, neighbor, like, I don't know. I guess when Zeb describes it, it sounds creepier than that, but...
So my first reaction, Elijah, is maybe, are you a little loud? I wonder if it was her polite way of like deflecting and saying, oh, you must have kids because it sounds rowdy in there. Which maybe is totally not the case.
Make more sense why she would just be asking. But that is a good sign that she hasn't come back, because maybe that means that you were just loud moving in, which seems natural. You know, you have to move things around.
It's true. Maybe now she's building her case. She's contacted the rental agency, and no, I think it's probably okay. But yeah, no, we haven't had any neighbors ask us if we have kids, although
we haven't had any neighbors ask us anything.
That's true. And we would be prime targets because like we ride our bikes inside, especially in the winter on the trainers, although I have invested in some nice matte flooring to prevent any vibration. And while my brother was here, he's a stomper. He's like a heel walker.
He's a stomper?
Yeah, like you know the guy that lives above us, he kind of stomps, and sometimes you hear it. My brother kind of does that. Like he walks with his heel.
Like heel heavy?
Like your sister, Danielle.
Oh, wow, really throwing Danielle under the bus here.
Well, I'm just saying.
Some people walk with their heels, I guess.
Yeah, and so my brother's one of those people, so I mentioned to him, because they were getting ready to go stay at my now sister-in-law's grandma lives in Hiroshima, and they were going down there to stay. And so I told my brother, I was like,
better not walk with your heels.
Yeah, I was like, you should be conscious of your walking.
Why?
Because it was like to the point where I was like, dang, we have downstairs neighbors now. They're going to be like, what's going on up there?
Oh, maybe I need to be careful about my heels in front of you.
Oh, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. For a while, we didn't have any downstairs neighbors, so that was nice.
Yeah, I'm interested to see this winter if downstairs neighbors help our apartment stay warmer.
That would be really nice.
Yeah. But yeah, we haven't really had any meaningful interactions. Like we do see our neighbors, you know, in the lobby using the elevator or just sometimes on the stairwell. And, you know, we always say, you know, konnichiwa, konbanwa.
They'll say like good morning to me and stuff.
Yeah.
But we don't really chat or really like stop and make eye contact while, you know, people will usually just be like good morning, like as they're like walking by.
That's true. I mean, they usually like smile and they look friendly. They're not like, we've never had anyone be mean or anything like that. It's just very like superficial, casual, just greetings, not like any meaningful. It's
not rude really, but it is a pretty like keep to yourself place.
Yeah, I think our apartment building is very, because I'm always fascinated. So I wrote this in the notes. One of my many domestic duties in the household is I usually take out the trash.
I like how you throw in that qualifier.
Yeah.
Many.
And I'm always surprised when I take the trash out that if I go out fairly late, it'll be like slammed full. Like I have to like, kind of like squeeze, like the trash.
Oh, yeah.
I have to kind of like squeeze our bag in there. And if you think, okay, maybe some people are taking out 2 bags of trash, but if you think every person, takes out 1, there are a lot of people that live here.
Yeah.
But you never see them. Yeah. Very rarely.
They're like little mice.
You would think that when you're using like the elevator that you would run into people more often. But it's super rare. Even in the morning when I'm leaving to go to work, I usually like never see anyone else.
I think
I'm always a little surprised when I see someone. I'm always like, whoa.
I think we're just like an apartment full of introverts, because I will notice that like if I hear somebody using the elevator on a different floor, I'll just like go ahead and take the stairs.
I do that too.
And I feel like other people do that. Like when they see me pulling up on my bike, I've seen people just like take the stairs instead of like take the elevator.
That's true.
And it's not, I don't take it as rude. Maybe, I don't know.
Neither do I.
Maybe extroverts would be like, oh. But yeah, I don't know. People just kind of do their own thing. I will say that there's a neighbor that I'm like really curious about, because there's 2 parking spots that are some of the only 2 that are covered, and one has a Bentley parked in it, and one in that same parking spot, sometimes the Bentley will be gone and there will be a Porsche parked there, and sometimes the Bentley and the Porsche will be somewhere else, and there will be like I don't even know the make or model, just some cheap car. So
Well,
somebody...
one time, like, there was a smart car where the Bentley's normally parked, but sometimes there would be two Porsches parked there. There would be, like, a Cayenne, like the SUV, and then, like, you know, a Porsche, like, sports car. And then sometimes, yeah, there would just be, like, a cheap...
I don't understand it.
Like, Volkswagen
the way
parked
that
there.
our apartment is set up, too, like, you pay for a specific spot. So, like, one apartment owns one spot. Or
Yeah.
they could pay for two, but, like, we can only park in a single spot in our apartment.
So I did figure out something about that guy recently.
Really?
So one, I know that they live here, but we both know that because sometimes you'll see him washing his car, and I've seen them coming
He
out of the
said hello
elevator
to me before.
Yeah, he's super friendly. But one night I was riding my bike home from Japanese class, and I saw them at another parking lot. They were like swapping out cars.
Well, yeah, they have to put their Bentley and
so
Porsche
there's
somewhere
another
else.
parking lot just down the road that they also own parking spots in, and so sometimes they'll park the cars they're not driving down there, and then I guess they like swap them out. But yeah, I can't figure out. Like,
I'm just so surprised because our apartment is like not expensive. If I owned a Bentley and a Porsche, I would think that I would be like paying for
I do
a nice
wonder,
house.
maybe they live on like the 6th floor, and maybe it's like a penthouse suite up there or something. You know, like a nice.
Maybe we should just walk up there and see what the 6th floor is like.
Yeah, but they're super friendly, and I've wondered maybe they own like an exotic car leasing or rental business, and like other people rent the cars.
Maybe I should go knock on the 6th floor door and ask if they have any kids.
Maybe, yeah. What are you guys doing up here? But yeah, it's very fascinating. But yeah, we're pretty like quiet, and then sometimes you'll go down there on the weekends or on a holiday, and the parking lot will just be like empty. Which then sometimes I wonder too, because sometimes neither fancy car is there. So does that mean he and his wife are both driving?
Yeah.
Like, and they like,
Just out on the town.
where'd they go?
I don't know. Maybe we're just nosy.
I mean, I think so, but we're just curious about their lifestyle. But yeah, we don't have many interactions with our neighbors. Maybe
Yeah.
it's for the best. 'Cause,
Well, thanks for emailing, Elijah, and let us know if that lady comes back and if she says anything else about kids or anything else. But
yeah, or she comes back with the police. She's like, this is
she
the
will
one. He's
not.
loud.
Oh my gosh.
And hopefully you're off to a good start. I know that, I mean, it's probably you've been here 2 or 3 months now, so hopefully school is going well and job's going well.
Yeah, and
and
speaking
any
of,
other new ALTs.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's
well, I was about to say, speaking of jets, the applications are open.
yeah,
So-
I think they opened they're open in the United States.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it's country by country. But I think sometimes the United States is last. But
they're
they're
not
open
last this year
there.
because I read that the UK opens like the end of. Well, the post said the end of this month, which it is the end of this month, but
Yeah.
so hopefully any minute if they're not already open.
Yeah. But I think in America they open maybe on the 25th or 26th. It was this week. It was like Monday or Tuesday this week. So
Yeah.
if you're curious about changing your life and moving to Japan, you can
Go in there and look.
apply for the JET program.
Yeah. So, like I said at the beginning of this, we were in America initially for my sister's wedding. I mean, just to see family and friends after a year or two. But I got to be a bridesmaid for my sister and also a bridesmaid for a college friend. And so that was really fun. But it also made me think about like what weddings in Japan are like and if like our bridesmaids a thing here. And turns out not really.
Oh,
So I know we mentioned weddings like briefly in the episode that we talked about kimonos and specifically wedding kimonos. That was like episode 29, and then we also like mentioned it again in 52. But we didn't talk about like what happens if you get invited to a wedding and what you can expect. So there's 3 things that I was going to talk about. One is what you're supposed to bring to a wedding as a guest. Then the second thing is I want to talk about what the ceremony might be like. And then what the reception might be like. So
I know a little bit about the first one because I have a coworker. One of my coworkers went to a wedding in Okinawa, and so like destination wedding, which is pretty cool. But while he was gone, I asked another one of my coworkers, like, "Oh, like, that seems pretty far to go for a wedding," and he was like, "Yeah." And I asked him, you know, if he had been to any weddings recently because we were just talking about it. And he said no. He was like, I always decline invitations. He's like, I don't go to weddings. And he was talking about this first part, and he said because it's very expensive. So
Yeah.
he doesn't go because he doesn't want to spend money.
So as a guest, I mean, I can only speak from experience as an American going to American weddings, but as a guest, I've always brought, like a relatively priced gift that you probably find on a registry. Sometimes people will have like a cash fund for a honeymoon or something, but there's not really like an expected like set thing that you have to bring to a wedding. In Japan, there pretty much is like just a social obligation that you bring a minimum of 3 man yen, or like about $200, $300.
Yeah, so now because the exchange rate, we used to always say, $1, 100 yen, but now it's $1, 150 yen.
Yeah.
So now 30,000 yen is 200 US dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So taking a bit of a hit. Now we have to do mental math when we
I'm
talk
still
about the
just
exchange rate.
moving the decimal over in my head, but I know that's
It doesn't work
not
like that anymore.
That's not right. But so this cash gift is called the goshugi, and it's like 3 man is like minimum. You can't really. It would be like a faux pas to bring anything less. And you might be thinking like, oh, it's my friend. They'll probably understand. Like, they just want me to be there to celebrate. But like, that's not really how it works. Because a lot of times if you go through a wedding planner route, then the wedding planner sets the budget expecting that every guest will bring 3 man. And so...
Yeah, which is so fascinating because...
It's expensive.
In American culture, it really is... If I invite someone to the wedding, I never invite them assuming... I mean, we only had one wedding. But I didn't invite anyone to our wedding thinking...
Like, they'd bring a gift.
Oh, yeah, like, I wonder what gift they're going to give us.
Like, you don't plan the budget of the wedding based on the amount that you'd get back from guests.
I thought it was fun to invite people to our wedding just because it was fun to invite people to a party that was, to celebrate us. So it was neat, like, it was fun. Well, it's weird to think about you invite people because you want them, not you want them, but you invite people assuming that they're going to bring a certain amount of money.
I mean, it's only weird from, like, the perspective of what we're used to, but also I was reading that it's kind of a mutual obligation. Like, let's say we invite a friend to our wedding and they pay us 3 man, and then we would be invited to their wedding and we would pay them 3 man.
Yeah, I wonder what politically how you get into it when they're like not getting married or you met them after they were already married.
Yeah. Because you're not supposed to decline someone's wedding invitation and then invite them to your own. Like, you're supposed to kind of keep a mental note of everyone you've declined, because then it would be rude to expect them to pay for you. But anyway, let's say you get invited and you're going and, you want to bring 3 man. You should go to the bank and get new bills, like crisp, unfolded, unused bills, and then you put them in this fancy envelope called the goshugi bukuro, and it's like the one you might see in like a stationery store or something with the strings. The strings are called mizuhiki, and you want to get the one that has kind of the most like color and flashiness, because you might, if you don't get one that's colorful, you might accidentally get one that's for funerals or mourning. It's I haven't bought either before, but the funeral ones are like black and white, kind of like muted. So it should be fairly obvious, but not so obvious that people don't accidentally do that. But you wouldn't want to get like, that would be awkward, the funeral one.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. And I know about the crisp money because I think you do the same thing for New Year's and for like graduation ceremonies.
I think
it's like a big deal. You do like, it has to be new bills.
Anytime you gift money, I think it's like a good thing to like gift the fresh bills. It's not really, I don't really think about it. Maybe that's just an American thing, that if somebody gave me money, I would just be like, oh, money. I wouldn't like notice if it's crisp or not.
I mean, I feel like in my family, it was pretty popular that you gave money on birthdays, and we would definitely notice because sometimes, someone would make like a joke about it.
Oh,
They'd
really?
be like, ooh. But it wasn't a big deal if you got uncrisp.
Right.
Like, it didn't need to be crisp. It was just funny when you got like a fresh bill, because people would be like, oh, it smells nice. Like, stuff like that. But
yeah. Well, you definitely don't want to give an even number like of money, because apparently that can be evenly split, so it's kind of like a bad omen of like splitting of the couple. But you don't want to give like 2 man or 4 man, especially, because 4 is a bad unlucky number. So
Which is interesting because I think of 30,000 yen is you can split that very evenly.
Yeah.
Into
I mean, you
15,000 yen.
Anything that ends in a zero, sure, but I guess.
Especially, any like. Yeah.
Well, depending on how close you are to the couple, like 3 mon is the average for if you're like single or if it's a colleague. But if you're the boss, then you would want to give like 5 mon or 7 mon. And if you're a married couple, then like together you would give 5 mon.
Yeah, and I know that it's interesting that the work situation is just so important in Japan, because I was actually reading an article about a wedding, and one of the key speakers at the wedding that gave the toast was this guy's supervisor at work. Was like one of the most important key speakers.
Like also friends.
It's just kind of like,
it's interesting. It's very ceremonial.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you write your name on the envelope and you bring it to the wedding, and then instead of handing it directly to the couple, there will be like receptionist type people at the wedding, and you would give it to them, and they will be the kind of like, they'll make sure it gets to the couple. So that's kind of an interesting...
I guess we kind of have that in America. Like, you don't give your gift straight to the couple. You usually put it on a table or like give it to the day of coordinator or whatever.
Yeah, or you just buy it on the registry online.
Yeah,
and it just gets
delivered to them.
Shipped.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more appropriate to decline the invitation than to attend and bring less than that money. But
like my coworker, he said he declines every single invitation.
I mean, that's simple, makes it simplified. So there's also something where the couple will give money to people who are traveling from like kind of far away, and it's called the okurumadai, and that's supposed to be like kind of a travel reimbursement. I don't know like exactly how that works, but it's just a lot of money like changing hands.
Yeah, like why overcomplicate it? And like if they're bringing you money, but then you're giving some back, like it's like you're giving them change for coming to the wedding. Like
I guess it's just like a long tradition that would be, you don't want to be rude. So
yeah, but it can't be that long of a tradition because this is for a more Western style wedding, right?
No, it's for any wedding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's pretty traditional. It's probably kind of like, I don't know. It reminds me of like a dowry or something.
But a dowry is between the families.
Yeah.
You don't expect your guests to bring dowry.
Well, either way, it's like a pretty big faux pas to like attend the wedding and not bring the cash. Unless you've like specifically talked about it with the...
We should have known about this before our wedding.
For our wedding?
Yeah, we could have told everyone.
Well, we're not Japanese, so...
$300 if you're coming to this.
Yeah, sure. So then the ceremony, or the shiki, the first thing you would pick, I guess, when you're having the ceremony is you'll want to pick the day. And traditionally, that will be picked according to the rokuyo, or the 6-day calendar, which is the old, like, lunisolar calendar from China. And the best days are the ones that are marked as taiyan, or, like, great safety, is what that literally means. And those days are the luckiest days. I don't exactly know, like, how a day is picked to be a great safety day, but, like, I Googled, like, Rokuyo calendar.
It's probably something about, like, the lunar cycle or phase of the moon or... Something
like that, but it's so, like, planned out that you can look for, like, 100 years in advance. And, so, like, this Saturday is supposed to be a taiyan day. So... There were different kinds of days. Like, there was one, like, that's the most lucky day. It's lucky all day. And there's one that's unlucky all day. And then there are ones that are, like, lucky in the morning, unlucky in the afternoon, or lucky all day except for noon. And, like, vice versa. So sometimes I was reading that people, like, in order to save some money on a venue, they'll pay for the, like, lucky all day except for noon one. Because it's still lucky, but it's not, like, the luckiest day. And so a lot of times venues are really cheaper.
It's complicated.
If it's traditional. Yeah. So there's two, like, main kinds of ceremonies that you might see in Japan. And one is, like, a white wedding, in quotes. And the other is a traditional Shinto ceremony. So the white wedding is kind of what you would think of as a Western-style wedding. And it's, like, a loosely Christian-style wedding that's held in a church or, like, a hotel banquet hall. And I was pretty interested to read that this became popular as recently as 1981 when there was, like, the TV broadcast of Lady Diana and Princess Charles' wedding. I don't know why that was so, like, captivating.
But isn't that interesting? Because I think that that's the original reason that white wedding dresses are really popular in the West. I think it was a monarchy. I mean, way before, of course, Prince Charles and Diana. But I'm pretty sure I read that that's a similar thing, like in the Western world, that it was a royal family wore white or something, and then that kind of like swept through the, like, I guess, zeitgeist of the Western world. Like, oh, we wear white.
That is interesting. Yeah, so it's just, I don't know, it's interesting because Christianity, like, Christians only make up like 1 or 2% of Japan's population, but then according to the Cultural Affairs Agency, 2/3 of Japanese weddings are these Christian style weddings. So
I think it's just because it's the perception of like the West, probably. Like, I don't think it's because there's a Christian perception. It's probably just because, like, oh, this is how they do it in the West, and this is like the modern style.
guess so.
Like,
Yeah. So a lot of times it won't be like for the religious part, but they'll go through the same kind of motions as what you would see.
They just want the Western aesthetic.
Yeah, and then I saw a funny quote that somebody said that Japanese people are born Shinto, live non-religious, wed Christian, and die Buddhist. I don't know how... I don't know if a Japanese person would agree with that, but...
You got it all mixed in.
Yeah. So then the other kind that maybe you've seen like pictures of where the bride and groom are in kimonos is probably a Shinto style. And so that's held in a Shinto shrine with an attending Shinto priest. And this is called the Shinzen Kekkon, or the marriage before the gods. And the bride will wear, I guess we talked about this in that kimono episode, but like an all-white kimono called a shiramuku, or a couple of other versions that we talked about. And then this is kind of cool, but the bride will also have a fan and a dagger called a kaiken that's concealed in a case, like tucked in her obi, like the big sash.
Yeah, that's the coolest part.
I know.
We should also bring that to the West.
But I
want to give given a dagger for my wedding ceremony.
So she like comes to the ceremony with it, but it's
ready.
Yeah. It's from like samurai women who used to get a kaiken on their wedding day for self-defense. I don't know like what they're defending themselves from. I mean, I would think that they could give up their kaiken if they're marrying a samurai. Then you have a bodyguard
yeah, but then
with
you got people that are trying to come kill your
take your
samurai husband and the wife.
Yeah, maybe.
You gotta get ready for war, I guess.
But people will still have that, but like sometimes it's just like they'll just have the case and not the actual like knife.
Dang, it's a
or
bummer.
Just kind of like a dummy sword or a dagger. But these ceremonies are a pretty like intimate affair. Like it's usually just the family and like maybe some close friends. It's not like all the guests that come later don't usually come to this part. And it starts with a procession to the shrine. So the bride and groom are together at the front, and then kind of like from pictures it looks like shrine maidens or somebody will usually be in front of them, and then it's the bride and groom, and then following them are like the family. And when they get to the shrine, they're seated there at the shrine closest to the gods, and the theme of purification is kind of the focus. So the priest will purify the shrine, call in the kami, or like the divine spirits, and then the couple usually participate in this sake ritual called sansan kudo, where they sip 3 times from like a stack of 3 cups of sake.
Yeah, 3 times from each of the 3 cups.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a lot in total.
Well, you just take little sips. You don't take shots. Like little,
wild.
like gentle sips. And some places I read that this symbolizes like heaven, earth, and humankind. Or some people say it represents love, wisdom, and happiness that grow over time in a marriage. And then another source said that it actually represents like the 3 flaws that you can overcome together of hatred, passion, and ignorance. So I don't know, there's a lot of...
Is passion a flaw?
I don't know. I think anything with too much or like the wrong way could be bad. But yeah, I guess 3 is a good number for a lot of things.
Yeah, Japan's really into their 3s and their 9s and 7 and 5. Those are like...
It's like a lot of numbers you just mentioned, but...
I mean, yeah, they're like the prime numbers or whatever.
We mentioned before like the 3-7-5 ceremony for children that turn each of those ages.
And then they're like the 3 most impressive views in Japan. They're like the 5 grand shrines.
3 is just a good number.
It's a lot going on. It's interesting because Yeah, I don't really like any of those numbers.
What?
I'm a big fan of 4, which in Japan is...
Yeah, that's unlucky.
Yeah, that's the unlucky number.
Why do you like 4?
I don't know.
Oh.
Seems like a good number. I don't know.
Well, don't tell that to any of your Japanese friends.
Yeah, I won't.
So once you've made it through the ceremony, you get to go to the reception, or the hiroin. And a lot of times these are held in like hotel convention rooms or banquet halls, because they'll hold like 20 to 200 guests, you know, like kind of any wedding I've been to in the West, that's where like all the large amount of people will go, you know. And recently I was reading that it's become popular for, even if you have a Shinto style wedding, you might change into like a more Western style dress and suit for the reception. And a lot of times the guests are given these souvenirs called hidekimono, and they're usually just like sweets or small trinkets, but you get like a like a treat bag for going to the wedding.
I guess they kind of do that in American
sometimes
reception. Like sometimes they're like a little party favor type thing, like a glass or a...
Sometimes.
I think we had bottle openers at ours.
And I don't think we did.
Remember the key? That was also a bottle
opener.
Oh,
yeah.
People could take that.
That was from...
That was at the rehearsal dinner, not the reception.
From your mom.
I guess.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think the hidekimono are like a little more expected.
Well, it sounds like omiyage.
Yeah.
It's like, here's a little like morsel
like,
you
treat
can
for coming.
nibble on. Yeah. Like, thanks.
So the reception doesn't sound like that's as much fun though, because usually it's just dinner and speeches, and like sometimes there'll be like entertainment or live music, but not so much like dancing or party kind of stuff. That part comes after. Like a lot of Japanese couples will have an after party called a nijikai with your like younger friends and stuff. You'll go like after the formal reception, kind of to like bars or something. That's when like the dancing and drinks comes. And sometimes you might even have a sanjikai. Like ni is 2, san is 3. So like second party and third party.
Well, I know that they do that at like work parties, like nomi hodais. Usually there will be the work party that's the nomi hodai, and then usually after that you go to a different nomi hodai where it's only some of your coworkers, and then sometimes even after that you'll go to like another one that's even like fewer coworkers.
Well, I guess it gets like decreasingly formal, you know, like there's the very formal ceremony, then the pretty formal reception, and then finally you can like let your hair down for like dancing and drinks.
That would be asleep.
I know.
Like,
it depends on what's important to you.
Yeah.
Or what you think would be fun. But yeah, there's not really like the wedding party is not really a thing. I think it might be if you do a white wedding, but typically like it wouldn't be in a Shinto ceremony. But yeah, it was just interesting because being a bridesmaid is fun, but it's a pretty unique like position, I guess, in the wedding, you know?
I guess so, yeah, because you're part of the official procession.
Well, you get to like stand up there, but you also are like one of the people that's supposed to be making sure that the bride or groom like has everything they need and like is, you know.
You are supposed to, I guess, you're responsible for more.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a position of honor, but yeah.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this and you've ever been in a Japanese wedding, or if you have a good example, like a YouTube video, or I was saying maybe on Netflix, there's like a Japanese movie where we don't ever watch Japanese like romance movies, but
maybe we should.
I don't know, maybe there's a movie out there where they kind of like go in to, or they have like a scene with a wedding.
Yeah, because I've never been to a Japanese wedding, so yeah, if you've been to one, I want to hear about it.
Yeah, because it seems like a fairly, not that it's small, but they seem more
like
contained.
Close, especially the ceremony seems more like intimate.
Yeah, we probably will never go to one. I mean,
well, yeah, I don't know anyone right now that's
all my coworkers are married,
like marrying age.
Yeah, so if you've ever been to one, or you know like a good example of somewhere in pop culture where you can see a Japanese wedding, the only thing that comes to my mind, do you know what I'm thinking of?
No.
What's that show called that you like that's on Netflix?
I don't know.
The romance show.
Oh.
It's like Big Brother, but Japanese. What's that
yeah,
show?
I can't remember the name of it, but basically like you go and speak in a room and then the other person is in the other room and you can't see them.
No.
Blind love or something.
They all live in the house.
Oh, Terrace House?
Oh, yeah, Terrace House. There's the scene where that guy takes one girl and they go to like a chapel That's what I'm thinking about.
Oh, yeah.
That's like super awkward.
Well, that
'cause
was
she's
just
not into
awkward.
him.
That was awkward because it was a date and he like brought her to a chapel.
Yeah, so when I think of Japanese wedding, I think of that.
That was not a good example.
No.
That was, yeah, poor
But
guy.
I think they went to a chapel that it's like people rent it out. It's not like a real church. I think it was like a chapel that people rent for weddings.
Yeah,
so
maybe
it's just kind
so.
of funny that it feels a little like Las Vegas style. Like,
I mean, there are certainly, like, we know Westerners that got married here in a Christian ceremony. So that exists. But yeah, it also
I'm not saying it
exists
doesn't exist, but
yeah, but
it's a little funny.
there are also just kind of places that look like chapels for the backdrop. Yeah.
That's true.
Let me know. I want to know about if you've been to a Japanese wedding.
Or if you're listening to this and you live in Japan and you're about to get married, can invite us.
Please don't.
We're not going to bring any money, but we'll come eat your, what's it called? Wedding omiyage?
Yeah, the hidakimono.
Yeah, we'll come eat your hikidemono.
Oh yeah, hikidemo. I was saying it wrong.
Yeah, there's no ki after de. Hikidemono.
Yeah.
I guess that's like something thing. Some kind of, well, mono is thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So speaking of things, I brought some things back from
Oh, yeah.
America. So I just wanted to mention it because I don't know. I also want to know if you went back to your home country, like what kind of things you would bring back, you know, because I brought back some things that I didn't really expect to. So, for example, one of the things I brought back was like a bunch of children's books in English. And I did that because I was talking to my Japanese friends that are trying to learn English, and they speak pretty good English right now already. But when we were at like a thrift store or like a flea market kind of thing, one of them bought a kid's book that was for sale, and she was like, "Oh, I just want to like practice reading, and also books in English are really expensive." And so she was really excited that she found a kid's book for like 500 yen or something. And I don't know, I was just thinking about like Goodwill and stuff. Like people like give away books.
Yeah, like families will have like boxes full of kids' books that they pass on or get rid of.
And they do that here in Japan, but in Japan, like only Japanese books. Like you can
so
get.
I guess elementary reading level books are a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, I think even in the, like, so my school is not a good example, but in the library at my school, I think they have, like, I Spy. And that's maybe the best English practice.
There's, like, no English words in that.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, there's, like, a few,
I think that's
but
why my high school has I Spy, because you don't really have to read. You just
I guess so.
look around.
Well, so even if you want to read, like, a novel or something, you at least around here, there's not a lot of like secondhand shops that have English books in them.
Which, I mean, it's the same if you're in the U.S., especially if you're like learning Japanese.
Yeah.
I can remember looking on U.S. Amazon, and you can't really find like manga or anything in Japanese.
Yeah,
so
you have to like buy it new.
Yeah, it's like very friendly to bring over like some used English books that you can use.
Yeah.
And that's probably a good tip if you're like an ALT or something. It's probably not a bad idea, especially if you know you're placed in like an elementary school. You could just go to Goodwill and buy a bunch of kids' books and have your own mini library to use.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good, but also, like, when we came over on the first time, like, my 2 bags, like, my 2 checked bags or whatever, were, like, packed full.
Yeah, we didn't have any room for...
I didn't bring any books the first go-around, but the second time when I had, like, plenty of room in my suitcase from just visiting, I brought a bunch of books.
It's true.
And I didn't really think about that until they told me how expensive books were, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, you know, you can buy books in your native language easy. But the other thing I brought was Halloween candy. Well, actually, you brought it.
Yeah, that's what I brought. So that was when I came back, and I don't even know if I mentioned this in whatever episode it was that I came back, but my omiyage that I brought back is, I mean, thankfully, kind of, it was like the end of August, beginning of September, but they were already selling the big bulk bags of Halloween candy in grocery stores and Walmart. So I bought like one of those plastic jack-o'-lanterns and then filled it up with candy, which this is how I found out that there's a special table that teachers leave out things for people. Like, so I put it there and then I walked by like a few days later to just check to see, you know, if people had been eating it, which it's almost all gone. So probably on Monday I'll bring it home. But when I walked by, there was like other snacks there. like that a different teacher had brought.
That's so much easier, because before you were like talking about putting it in everybody's mailboxes.
Yeah, but no one ever explained this to me.
Oh.
It took over a year before I figured it. And then one time I walked by them, there were like trophies and awards. Like I think they're from like the cycling team that they won some competition.
They just wanted everyone to look at it.
Yeah, they just like put them there so you can walk by and see like, oh, like what's been happening. No one ever told me this, but now I know.
Maybe it felt rude to be like, oh, and by the way, this is the table for like when you bring us gifts.
I mean, they could have told me when someone else brought a gift.
Yeah,
they could have been
true.
like, oh, did you know that you can go over there and you can eat some of those cookies?
Well, look at you now. You're
like, dang.
You're so informed.
Yeah, it just took a year. But so I brought some Halloween candy, and it was fun because the wrappers are super loud. And so there was like a period where I would just like hear people like eating Halloween candy because the wrapper is so loud.
Yeah.
And the bucket was super full, and now there's only, I should grab it I'll grab it on Monday because I'd be curious to know like what didn't they like.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because since it was an assortment, there were like all the classic candies, like the little Hershey, like the tiny Hershey bars.
So I got a classic assortment of chocolate, and then I got a classic assortment of like kind of the sugary candies. So
it had, like sweet tarts in it.
Yeah, sweet tarts and nerds and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the last thing I brought, which is like super regional, and I was in the grocery store on one of my last days in America, and I saw this, and I was like, oh, I have to bring this back. So they're little cans of boiled peanuts. And I love boiled peanuts. I had them while I was in North Carolina. If you've never had them, like you think of them more like a bean than a peanut. I think I talked about them in another episode. Yeah.
It's like the American version of edamame.
Yeah, I guess so. Like southern edamame.
Yeah. But I think I'm concerned about the boiled or the canned ones because part of the appeal is that they're hot, like out of the pot.
I don't think the canned one is going to be like nearly as appetizing, but I don't know how else I could show them boiled peanuts. I mean, I guess I could just boil them, but it takes
boiled peanuts.
It takes like 8 hours, and you have to have peanuts in the shell, so you gotta find those. It wouldn't be
probably get them on Amazon here.
It wouldn't be impossible.
I always see posts. This is just a side note. I always see posts online about people that are like, "Where can I buy?" And then they'll say like this American product or like this thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like just go on Japanese Amazon.
You say that, but sometimes they don't have the thing I'm looking for.
Sometimes, but a lot of people, I'll see them mention something specifically, and I'm like, I've seen that on Japanese Amazon.
Oh, so they haven't even, like, looked?
Yeah, like, you can tell that they're just like, I'm in Tokyo, and I really am craving, like, a Snickers bar. Oh. Like, where can I buy it? And
well, maybe they're just trying to, like, walk into a store and get one.
Yeah, I guess, but, yeah. You forgot an item, speaking of American products, you forgot an item on this list of things that we brought back to Japan.
Detergent?
Yeah.
I think we talked about that already.
I think so, yeah. So I brought back a huge box of powdered Gain detergent.
Which has been amazing.
Yeah, because did you notice that the house kind of smelled like Gain?
Yeah, it smells really good because it's like super scented American detergent.
Yeah, even though we use like the tiniest amount.
It's probably like overkill, but...
Maybe. Sometimes I feel like maybe it is a little bit strong, but then...
Too scented.
We just have a foreign level of body odor.
Yeah, according to Reddit.
Yeah. No, that was an Amazon review.
Oh.
It was a Japanese person that left an Amazon review for Gain. And they were like, I have a foreign level of body odor, so I needed to find a foreign product to mask my strong odor.
See, sometimes you can't find everything you need on Japan Amazon.
He left the review on Japan Amazon.
Okay, well.
It was just like 4 times the cost. So that's why we brought it from America. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully my friends like the boiled peanuts. Maybe it'll be like natto, and it's like one of those things that you either like it or hate it. So I'll just have to explain to them, like, you have to heat this up. Like, don't try to eat cold boiled peanuts.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they're good cold, like later that afternoon or just the next day. But because like I like cold pizza, so
they're like salty.
Yeah.
Well.
You
have a word of the week?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, am I going first?
Sure.
Okay, so mine actually is not, it's a word and a letter.
Okay. Is it A?
Nope.
Oh.
It's an American alphabet letter.
I don't know. O?
W.
W?
Yeah. I haven't seen this yet, and maybe I have actually seen it on menus and I haven't picked up on it. Apparently, it's very common in Japan, I read this online, that they'll use W, but apparently most people in Japan just call it the double. They don't call it the W, And so they use W as a shortening for double. So for example, like double check, it'll be like chekku in katakana with a W. So like double check. Like you should double check that. It'll be a W and like chekku. And apparently on menus, they'll do this for like hamburgers. It'll have like just a W and then hanbaga, and it means like a double, like a double cheeseburger.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that
what
either.
I thought you were going to say is that W is short for like laughing. Have you seen that?
So apparently that's lowercase W.
Oh.
If it's an uppercase W, it's short for double.
Oh.
So if
like you know how we'll type like LOL
yeah,
or whatever?
they do www.
Like yeah, just like the English W.
Yeah.
Which I guess is short for warao, which is to laugh, but that's like the Romaji spelling of warao.
But it's so much faster to type
I
than
guess
doing
so.
like wah 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 wah. That sounds like you're crying, I guess.
I don't know.
But yeah, so just a W.
W has so many meanings.
I know, which I thought someone said that it's very common. I've never heard a Japanese person call it just the double. But they said that they'll hear people call it W just like double. But in English class...
Where were you reading this?
On Reddit.
Oh,
There's like a post.
wow.
This is where I also sent you the buresto.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, it's the katakana is buresto, which, I mean, you might think I'm saying something when you hear that, but it is the katakana shortening for brainstorming.
Yeah, apparently.
So,
but if you sent me that, I would not think brainstorming.
Yeah.
So
someone was talking about how at work, they thought it was really funny because people kept talking about the buresto room. And they were like, what? Like, what is this? So that was like one of the more
clearly the
educational.
brainstorming room.
Yeah. There were a bunch of other really funny ones too that when I read it, I was like, where did they get this from? But it's just because they take an English word and then of course they put it into katakana from Romaji, and then they get the katakana and then they like end up shortening it a bunch until they get to some weird obscure English word. But then when you hear it as an English speaker, you're like, what are you talking about? So yeah, double or W
or laughing.
Yeah.
Well, my word's not really as fun, but mine is
kind of fun.
Kuri. Do you know what that is?
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the notes. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's chestnut.
I'm reading along here.
Yeah, so it's chestnut, which is one of my favorite nuts, vegetables. I don't know.
Definitely, it's a tree nut.
Okay.
I mean, right? Yeah. Not, call it a vegetable.
Well, when you boil it, it's I guess that's true. But it's
it's very like
soft,
large
like a
and
potato.
Soft, and it does have a potato-y texture.
Yeah. Well, it's chestnut season again.
It is. So you came back to Japan, and
I'm thrilled.
I had some chestnut goods waiting in the kitchen.
I had a chestnut Kit Kat today, and I didn't have one yet, but there's chestnut like biscuit things on our counter.
They're almost like a Japanese moon pie.
Oh yeah.
But instead of like a marshmallowy filling, it's like a thinner chestnut filling.
So actually, before I left, like to go back to America, I went to 7-Eleven for the last time for like a month, and I got an ice cream that was chestnut chocolate.
Ooh.
And it was really good because it was vanilla ice cream, and then it was like the coating was like white chocolate kind of, or some kind of chocolate, but it had little pieces of chestnut like in the coating.
Oh, that sounds good.
So they were like little soft chestnut bites as you ate it.
I actually, on a bike ride, I rode by a house and they were roasting chestnuts.
Oh, I love roasted chestnuts.
Yeah, because I went by and I was like, what are they doing? They had this big fire going and I was like, oh, those are chestnuts.
One of the first times I like bought chestnuts to cook myself because I got all inspired because we went to Europe.
Well, in Europe in the winter, they're just roasted chestnuts everywhere.
Yeah,
they're so good.
So then when we got back, I was like, oh, the grocery store has chestnuts. I'll buy some. And I thought they were like nuts, like peanuts, where you could just buy them and like stash them in your cupboard.
Yeah.
Well, then when I took them out like a week later, they were all moldy and disgusting.
And then there's also the issue that there's like two different kinds of chestnuts. There's like the horse chestnut, and one of them's high in like molybdenum or something, some kind of like metal.
I don't even know what you just said.
Apparently, if you eat too much of it, it'll like kill you.
Oh.
I only know that because there was an episode of one of those cheesy shows, like House or something.
Oh.
It's like the Brazilian chestnut.
The Brazil nut will kill you.
Yeah, this was specifically a chestnut.
Oh.
It was some type of chestnut, but yeah,
so
watch out. But you know what we can do?
What?
They already have the skimi item back at McDonald's.
Oh.
The skimi menu for like the skimi flurry.
When you said skimi, I was like, I don't know what skimi is, but it's the moon viewing. Like,
yeah.
ski as in what, moon? And then mi
like
as
the
in
month
look?
kanji that's like, yeah.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is the name of the flavor, but I think it's just like a chestnut caramel flavor or something.
So it's the name of the flavor, but also they have the entire menu because they have the Skimmy McFlurry, but then they also have the Skimmy Burger that has the egg, the fried egg on it.
Where it's supposed to look like a full moon.
Yeah, the egg looks like the moon. So yeah, we can go enjoy some
chestnut goods.
Some Skimmy goods.
Can't wait.
But, yeah, okay. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode, unless you have anything you'd like to add here at the end.
No, I just now I'll go to sleep dreaming of chestnuts. But yeah, okay. if you've made it this far, thanks for listening. And email us if you just want to say hi or if you have any experience in Japanese weddings.
Yeah, or if you would like to, you can leave us a review and you can share us with all your friends. Tell everyone about this podcast. And just this is a side note at the very end here. The Spotify podcast app has auto added a Q&A to every single episode. And I think the default question is something like, what did you think about this episode? And actually a couple people have used it for our podcast, and they've written like a little note about what they thought about that particular episode, which is very friendly and very nice. Our day. Yeah, so if you'd like to, you can add a little note, or if you want to take it seriously and you want to answer a question that like the quality was good or bad, you can also do that.
Yeah.
Or if there's some way that we can use it, maybe in the future, because we can change the question. So we can do like a poll, or we can ask like a specific question. So maybe we'll get creative one day and do that. But
sounds good. Well, you can find us at ramblingramsbothams@gmail.com.
Or just ramblingramsbothams.com.
Yeah.
If you want to go to our website. But, okay, now I think we're really rambling.
We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.